Howdy, my witches. Merry meet again. I so love it when the universe shows me what video to do next. I've been trying to figure out, which way should I do? I've got over 150 videos. I don't even remember what some of them are. I don't remember what I've said and what I haven't said sometimes. I don't want to go back and watch them all. But recently, actually in the last week or so, I got into a debate or three on a Facebook page called Unity of Wicca. And out of the first discussion I had there, I kind of got banned for a little while. I got unbanned, but during the process, it prompted me to start my own Facebook page where discussions could occur, because on this other page, discussions really weren't occurring, and it wasn't. I'm sorry, some screen popped up. It wasn't really a Facebook page conducive to having discussions. But as a result of what I did, it now is. It now is, and they're having discussions there. The prime directive of my system, the Circle A system of magic, is to covertly affect the entirety of the craft world based on our presence within it. To have such a dramatic presence that our members affect all known crafts. And I think I did that. I think the original site changed a lot, but it turned out that there was need for my site. So mine is the Unity of Wicca and Witchcraft on Facebook. I think it's, Facebook/Unity of Wicca and Witchcraft. I don't know. You look it up if you're on Facebook, and give us a like. Get in there. It's a place for open discussion. We won't ban people just because their beliefs offend somebody else. I got banned for this one website, basically because somebody was very threatened by what I said. It threatened their belief system, but they had no argument. I respect argument. I respect logic. I respect knowing your shit. I do not respect emotional outbursts and impassioned emotional responses that mask a weak argument or having no argument at all. Quite often people will use emotion to mask the fact that they have no logic. And what has happened since then, since I started the Unity of Wicca and Witchcraft, it's great. I'm having discussions on both pages. I'm having discussions on a page that used to not have discussions, so I hope there was some effect there. There also was some other influence that seemed to happen there, and I'm thankful for that. That's good. It's all good stuff. There's good people over there. There's some really good people, and then there's some people in need of education and resisting being educated. So the argument that came up on their page and posted on our page was started over the Pentagram. There was a graphic of the Pentagram, and I pointed out that it was a little off. First of all, there's two main models of the Pentagram as far as elemental points on the Pentagram. One version is much older than the other version. The second version only comes about somewhere in the 90s. The older version goes all the way back to when Gerald Gardner borrowed it from ceremonial magic, and it stays intact back to its ceremonial magic model. That's the one I use. My belief is that you use the oldest magic you can find, and do not limit the power of creativity. You must be creative. You can't just repeat all of the old steps. You need to add something to that. Now, you notice I said add something to that. What I did not say is subtract something. You can build on the existing framework, the existing foundation that our ancestors left, but you cannot take away that foundation. If you do, you're not doing Wicca, witchcraft, or anything that previously had a name. You're doing something new, and should probably call it something new. We've got a big argument about which points um, represented on the pentacle were correct, or if there is no correct and you're just allowed to make it up as you go along. I believe in the momentum of belief. The old magics, when you use an old model, and I said this in the Big A Pentagram method, when I go like this, I have just called forth every person that ever moved their hand in that fashion to call the element an elemental of Earth to the northern quarter. So the thousands and thousands and thousands and millions of witches and ceremonialists and everybody else that ever did that, I've just used their energy, I've just used their force. It makes it very powerful. But the power of creativity is also very powerful. And I believe, adding to it, adding to the existing craft. Like, you don't just repeat the same quarter calls that you were given. Use lines from the quarter calls that you were given, but then add to them. Now, before you add to them or get creative, you need to be educated. You need to know what it meant in the first place. You do not reinvent the wheel without understanding the wheel. And it's probably not a good idea to reinvent the wheel anyways. Make something new. Make a conveyor belt. I don't know. But at any rate, this is what I'm talking about right here. Let's see, wait for the camera to get in focus. Now, this is the oldest model associated with the points of the pentagram that we can find. These points. So if you memorize these, you're going with the older model. And if you already watched my Big A Pentagram method, you already have memorized these points. But one of the things that was funny, first we were arguing about the points of the pentacle, or the pentagram, whichever. And we were arguing about the different elemental points, but in the graphic that I took exception to, the top point of the pentagram was fire. Now, the only thing that I can figure, there is an existing chant out there that everybody pretty much knows. It goes, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. Now, if people are using the top point as fire, the only thing I could figure is they heard that chant and got confused. Now, that's the kind of thing that made me start this channel in the first place, and that's what I'm all about. I have the belief that there has been too much secrecy in the craft over the years that we've been around, and that secrecy has led to great confusion and mistakes. People are doing things, trying to do the old rituals and doing them in a different fashion. And yeah, there's not only one only right and true way, but there is an old way. And in Wicca, in witchcraft, we like to use terms like the old religion, the old ways, the old gods, these kinds of things. Now, if we want to be New Age, we need to start a New Age movement that has some similarities with Wicca and witchcraft. We don't take the old religion and delete. Again, you can add to it, but you cannot subtract from it. But the purpose of this video is to point out something that apparently was not known, and my attempts to try and teach it to a 17-year-old know-it-all have come to naught. They're very, very impassioned, very emotional, very threatened that their belief system had been questioned. But fire for the top point, there's no known model out there that's a total recreation. There's nothing to base that on. It has no foundation whatsoever. This has foundation. There is another model where the elemental, a couple of the elements are switched. I think air and water are switched, but that is a newer model. So while you may get hundreds of people that believed in that newer model when you use it, it's not as powerful as thousands and thousands over the years and years and years. But at any rate, this configuration is really important, and I may have talked about this in other videos. I think I probably would have talked about it in the paths of left and right. But this configuration of the pentagram embodies the essential philosophy of early Wicca, the right-hand path of Wicca, the part of Wicca that would use the Wiccan Rede and the threefold law and that kind of thing. The spirit point is on the top over the mundane elements, and in this configuration, bound by a circle, it is symbolic of the philosophy of Wicca, or the right-hand path of Wicca, which was spirit over the flesh. Now, when it was like this, it still embodied those same points, and the philosophy just got flipped. This was the symbol of the left-hand path, flesh over the spirit. Now, a lot of know-it-all Wiccans that haven't cracked a book open say, oh, that's a symbol of black magic and the Satanists and all that. Well, okay, the Satanists did use it. The Satanists do consider themselves left-hand path, so maybe that's why they used it. Probably more so because it's easy to fit a goat's head in there, which, was the horn god, was symbolic of the horn god way back when. But those that haven't cracked enough books might not have noticed that all the way back to one of the earliest crafts that were the foundation of Wicca, the Gardnerian system, this was the second-degree initiation symbol. So this symbol exists within the foundation of Wicca. It is not opposed to it. It is not opposite from it. It is an opposite philosophy that also was contained in Wicca. And if you follow the initiation process, which you can read in A Witch's Bible Complete, I think 8 Sabbats for Witches has it too, but the Farrars, they're also Gardnerians, or Gardnerians. I always say gardener. I don't know why I said it. But they're also Gardnerians. They published the rituals, even the initiation rituals, in their book, and the philosophy that seems to go with it. There is a process of a year and a day of spirit over the flesh, and then the next initiation cycle is flesh over the spirit. And then the next initiation cycle is symbolized by a triangle, which is a whole nother bag of worms. But study, kids. Especially if you're going to be an expert or you're going to teach other kids. There are podcasts galore. I've been teaching now for 36 years, or at least 36 years, and I'm constantly educating myself. I've got my phone in my pocket playing podcasts, learning other crap. I love the Lucky Mojo Hoodoo Root Work Hour. Even though it's root work, and root workers think that they're not witches sometimes, even though they all came from the same mold, and we used to just call root work witchcraft. There's a lot of little spells and tidbits and ways people use herbs and roots that I hadn't thought of. Hex education I like is good. A lot of times just so I can hear the inner politics of what go on in the biggest witch city in the country. But there's a lot of, there's good podcasts, the video casts. The people that I subscribe to, I watch their videos too. Sometimes I just put it on, I forget what the setting is, but I just let it roll through and play videos from all my subscribers. And then, my subscribers get a hit on their videos, and I learn something. So I own my own witch store. I'm surrounded by books. I'm surrounded by text. But I'm constantly studying witchcraft. I'm constantly relearning witchcraft. Even though after 36 years, I guess you could call me an expert. Experts in any field require keeping up with the new technology. I know the old books, but I know the new books too. I read the new books. I read the new information out there. But what I constantly am plagued with in my entire career, and most of my classes and my videos seem to have to touch on that, there's just little things, that old practices that get lost along the way and get used in a different way than they were once used. And I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. I have the blessing or the curse of the long memory. My short-term memory is not that good. But a long-term memory, man, the longer I get from a thing, the clearer I remember it. So I remember everything that went on in the craft in my childhood. I can see what got changed. I can see little things that got lost along the way, and it seems to be my position in the world, the witchcraft world, to reintroduce those things that were lost. There's a great deal of confusion about, like we were talking about, right-hand path, or I'm sorry, left-hand path or right-hand path. There seems a great confusion. Like when I started the Unity of Wicca and Witchcraft page, some of the people that didn't like us were saying, "Oh, what is that? Just a page full of dark magic? What is that? They're just teaching hexes and evil there." Well, so far that hasn't happened. My page is totally open to that. If you wanted to post curses on my page, I would let you do that. I might censor Christians if they come and mess with us. I'm open to that because, there could be some balance in the world. But all the censorship that we'd suffered at their hands, maybe they could suffer some back. But that hasn't happened yet either, knock on wood. But so far, there haven't been any dark magic or curses or anything like that. And one of the original reasons I got kicked off, temporarily off the other side, was to even engage in the discussion of dark magic, or the fact that some traditions don't have the Wiccan Rede, don't follow the Wiccan Rede, or have their own version of something similar to the Rede. The Troth, the Norse people, the Odinists, the Satru, I don't even know what theirs is called, but they have a similar thing, kind of like the Wiccan Rede, but basically a moralistic code written into their system. The Strega have theirs, and the Strega, it says, harm not the innocent, which I think is much more livable in the real world than the typical Wiccan Rede and how people tend to use the Wiccan Rede. But the discussion was about, dark and light. Dark magic does not mean curses specifically. It can. If somebody published a curse, I guess that would fall under the realm of dark magic, but that's not necessarily it. And I know I'm supposed to be talking about the Pentagram, but there's a whole big thing that this came out of that I think I need to say to the whole world sometimes. For a long time, in somewhere around the 90s, in the craft, me and my friends found that somehow the Dark Goddess had been deleted from most modern craft. Most witches would say the word Esbet, and they meant full moon ritual, where in my day Esbet meant full moon or new moon ritual or dark moon ritual. Depending on what time of the month you were, you knew what you were talking about when you said Esbet. But for a period within Wicca, the Dark Goddesses had been removed over time. They'd been lost somehow, and the new moon rituals and the dark moon rituals just weren't being done by the majority of the Wiccan populace. That has changed. I know I did my part, but I don't take credit for that. There was a stream in the world of people trying to bring back the Dark Goddess into the fold of the craft, and she has come back. She is well known. It is more common nowadays to do new moons and full moons, and to have dark goddesses and light goddesses. And just in the 90s, 97, that was not the case. So we go round and round, and the craft is constantly evolving and changing. And that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to evolve and change. We are supposed to add to it. We are supposed to add our own creativity to it. We are supposed to make the picture larger and make the story better. But we do not get to delete the old story. And my argument with the dark and the light thing was that if witches are afraid of the dark, they will never come to know the dark love of Hecate, of Kali, of Nyx, of Nemesis, the goddesses associated with the dark moon and the night sky. They are dark. Some of those goddesses might be who you would work with if you were doing hexes, dark magic, that kind of thing. But that's not their fault, and that's not what they do, and they didn't talk you into it. But that might be their realm if you were going to do such a thing. So dark does not mean bad. That is racism encoded into the old craft that was dominated by white people once upon a time. Back in the day, In my day, they immediately said that voodoo was dark magic and negative and bad, and nobody had ever looked at voodoo. Nobody had ever paid any attention to it. It was racism. People didn't even know they were being racist. It was just kind of handed down to them. But the immediate fear of darkness is racism inherent in old crafts. So some old things we do need to lose. Other old things we need to hold on to and make sure that they aren't lost. We need to keep in mind that what we're experiencing now is the rebirth of the craft, built on all the fragments that could be found from what was left behind from all of our ancestors, witches, pagans, and other religions other than Christianity, all persecuted, all called witches, all called pagans. We borrow stuff from most of these cultures for our current craft now. We've got to keep in mind that those original, our earlier, our more recent forefathers and mothers worked really hard to find everything that was left, that still existed in craft, and build those foundations. There was, a lot lost during the burning times. And really, the Catholics probably have the really good witchcraft books down in their vault somewhere. I'm sure they didn't burn them because they were clearly seizing power. I guess my rant's all over the page on that one, but the main point was the meaning behind the pentagram. It's really important. The reason, if you wear it like this, there's a reason you're wearing it like this, and if you wear it like this, there's a reason you're wearing there's a reason you're wearing it like this, and that reason should not be forgotten. It was a symbol of a philosophy, as are most of the symbols we use in craft. We know this in sigil magic. The symbol embodies the entire concept, the entire idea of a thing, and the symbol translates over into our subconscious magical mind better than words do. Words are not used up there. Symbols associated with concepts are used there. And this symbol goes way back. And just because you're mad at me and just because you're upset doesn't mean that you get to change what my ancestors left for me to dig out of the dirt. So, hey, go check us out on Unity of Wicca in Witchcraft. And check out Unity of Wicca, too. And actually, out of the thing that happened that one night when the moon was in Aries, a couple other pages were born off of that night. There's also the University of Wicca, and fascinating stuff that happened. But if you're on Facebook, check us out. I also have my Birch Tree Craft website, not to be confused with Birch Tree Crafts Vermont. But I got a few Facebook pages. I have one for my shop, one for myself, one for my other self, and now the Unity of Wicca and Witchcraft. So hit us up there, give us a like. I post a lot of these videos there, and I'm sure in the hell going to post this one there. I hope that was worth all the time you've waited for me to put up another video. It's been I think like a month or so. Sorry about that. Working on it. Merry meet y'all, merry part y'all, and merry meet again, y'all.